Why aren't struggling readers learning to read? A research proposal by Victoria Mulderick. Reading is a fundamental life skill. It is very difficult to survive in today's society without being able to read proficiently. Reading is important for understanding prescription medication, filling in job applications and tax documents, paying bills, answering emails, and even posting on social media. However, studies have also found benefits to reading for pleasure, including reduced stress, improved focus, cognition, and memory, expanded vocabulary and world knowledge, improved sleep quality, problem solving, critical thinking skills, and better empathy. Despite all of this, there are some scary statistics available regarding the state of reading in America today, such as 85% of juvenile offenders have problems reading, 3 out of 4 people on welfare can't read, and currently 45 million Americans are functionally illiterate and cannot read above a fifth grade level. Reading is one of the most researched aspects of education. Over the years, there have been many attempts to improve reading levels for American children, including government policies and new curriculums. However, every year, approximately 40% of students score below basic on the National Assessment of Educational Progress test. Students who struggle with reading often experience bullying, low self-esteem, and after leaving school, socioeconomic struggles, as well as being at higher risk of incarceration. As with all problems in society, one of the first responses is trying to figure out who to blame, and many groups of people and ideologies have been blamed for the struggles with teaching reading, the first group being teachers themselves. Some researchers have argued that teacher preparation programs do not do enough to prepare teachers for the complexity of teaching reading, while others have argued that reading itself is too difficult for teacher preparation programs to adequately prepare people for, and more focus should instead be placed on professional development practices within schools. Another target for blame has been the curriculum. One of the big issues with many of the curriculums on the market today is that they are not evidence-based. Oftentimes, the curriculum are being designed by research, not by researchers, but by publishers who may have more of a focus on making money and getting a product to market quickly, as opposed to ensuring rigorous testing for effectiveness. Also, with so much misinformation on the market, it can be very difficult for teachers to find curriculum that do utilize proven methods. And even if teachers do manage to find an effective curriculum, these programs are only effective if they are used with fidelity, which is not always the case, as the requirements for these programs often require more time or smaller group sizes than schools are able to accommodate. Of course, if we're blaming teachers, we can also blame students. Those students who don't pay attention aren't going to make as much progress. Even less are the ones who actively disrupt the class. Many researchers have found a strong link between challenging behavior and low reading scores. And while there is still a question of which one causes the other, researchers have found that reading interventions can improve both student reading scores and their behavior. Families can also shoulder some of the blame. Parent involvement has been identified as a factor in student reading scores. Particularly, students from low socioeconomic households on average score less on reading assessments, and some researchers have suggested one way to improve student reading scores would be to improve home-school partnerships. A final idea for where to place the blame is on the concept of reading itself. Reading is far more complex than most people realize, which means learning to read is far more complex, which means teaching reading is far more complex. This issue hasn't been helped by the fact that there seems to be little agreement among researchers on how best to teach reading, with some believing that phonics should be the main focus, while others argue that comprehension is more important. The media has been instrumental in promoting this dichotomy in what has been dubbed the reading wars. When talking about the two sides, the media often uses quite combative language, which has hindered possibilities for conversation to occur between the two sides, which could have resulted in a better understanding of the ways to teach reading. Another area that has been highlighted by researchers is that there is a disconnect between the research being done by scientists on reading and the teachers in the classroom. So even when teachers are given training on the science of reading, they are left unsure how to translate this into classroom instruction. My research question for this study is, what is the most important factor which impacts students with reading disabilities being taught to read in USD 383? Participants for this research project will be the parents and teachers of students in USD 383 who attend a private reading clinic outside of school hours for additional support. Parents and teachers will be provided with surveys. Parent survey questions will be on their reasons for finding help outside of school for their struggling reader, their own views on reading, how involved they are in their child's school, and their socio-economic status. Teacher survey questions will be on the reading intervention and language arts curriculum being used in their school and with how much fidelity, the training they received on teaching reading and on the specific curriculum they use, both in their teacher preparation program and in professional development from the school and teachers' efforts to improve homeschool relationships, and the teacher's own views on reading. Both parent and teacher surveys will also provide a list of suggested barriers to teaching students with reading disabilities to read, that they will be asked to rank from having the highest impact to the lowest. Teachers will also complete a short questionnaire for each of the participating students they teach, with a list of disruptive behaviors and to what extent the student engages in them. Parent survey responses regarding their views on reading and involvement in their child's education will be scored on a continuous scale using single score items, as will teacher survey responses regarding time spent reading for pleasure and confidence with preparation to teach reading in specific curriculum. By using this type of scoring, higher the score for these questions should translate to more positive responses. Student behavior questionnaires completed by the teachers will also be scored on a continuous scale to give an overall behavior score for each student, with a higher score representing more of a negative impact on the student's learning. The factor rankings will be calculated to determine the overall score and average score of each factor, with the higher the number representing the most impact that factor has on teaching students with reading disabilities to read. The curriculum teachers are using will be reviewed and rated based on the What Works Clearinghouse criteria to determine intended use and effectiveness. The intended use will be compared with teachers' responses regarding fidelity, such as group size and amount of instruction time, to give an overall score regarding effectiveness of the curriculum as it is being implemented. In conclusion, this study is an action research study with the focus on exploring the challenges of being taught to read for children who attend a private reading clinic for additional support outside of school hours in USD 383. The research question for this study is, what is the most important factor which impacts students with reading disabilities being taught to read in USD 383? Participants for this study will be the parents and teachers of students who attend a private reading clinic for additional support in USD 383. Data will be collected in the form of surveys and will be analyzed using quantitative methods to determine the most important factor impacting students being taught to read.